Now for the deep state and shadow power in the realm. The deep state does not command obedience, because it cannot. By the oldest law older than empires, older than doctrine, free will cannot be broken, only influenced. Power understands this constraint and operates within it with precision. The deep state exists, not as a ruling force, but as an enduring presence that shapes the terrain of choice itself. It has no banner, no fixed form, no single voice. It survives by narrowing possibility, by arranging circumstances so that while individuals remain technically free, deviation becomes costly, dangerous, or exhausting. Compliance feels voluntary because coercion is never explicit. Shadow power operates through position rather than authority. It inhabits advisory chambers, intelligence divisions, strategic councils, financial oversight bodies, and security apparatuses, whose members are appointed, insulated, and permanent. These figures do not issue commands. They curate outcomes. Leaders are presented with options already constrained, risks already framed, futures already modeled. What appears to be leadership is often selection among paths designed by others. Those who aligned are reinforced with stability, intelligence, and support. Those who resist encounter friction. Scandals emerge, alliances erode, crises multiply until resistance becomes unsustainable. This is why figures like Donald J. Trump that are not part of this corruption are targeted. He can take away the power in their plan. Information is the deep state's primary instrument of influence. Knowledge flows inward and upward, compartmentalized and classified, never outward in full. Decisions are justified by threats that cannot be disclosed, enemies that cannot be named, dangers that must remain abstract. Secrecy is framed as protection, and protection is never debated. No individual sees the whole structure. Each knows only enough to act, never enough to challenge. Responsibility dissolves across layers, ensuring obedience without clarity and participation without understanding. Shadow power plans in spans longer than generations. Instability is not feared. It is managed. Wars are not sudden. They are conditioned. Economic collapses are not accidental. They are absorbed and repurposed. Social unrest is studied, guided, and redirected into channels that exhaust energy without threatening the core. Each crisis expands the reach of the unseen, justifying surveillance, emergency authority, and structural consolidation. Visible leaders absorb blame, while the machinery beneath them grows stronger. Those who perceive the structure too clearly are not confronted openly. Some are discredited until truth sounds indistinguishable from delusion. Others are buried beneath legal pressure, administrative paralysis, or financial attrition. A few simply vanish from relevance. Assess, revoked, credentials nullified, networks severed. No announcement is needed. The pattern teaches itself. Understanding becomes a liability. The genius of shadow power lies in restraint. It does not seek domination of daily life, nor loyalty, nor belief. It permits surface, conflict debate, protest, ideological division, because fragmentation prevents unified opposition. The population expends its will fighting reflections, never the source. People remain free to choose, but only within an environment engineered to favor predictability over rebellion. At its deepest level, the deep state seeks neither obedience nor fear, only continuity. The most effective control is achieved not when resistance is crushed, but when resistance never fully forms. When people believe they are choosing freely, even as the world around them has been arranged to ensure the same outcomes again and again. The deep state does not declare itself. It does not need to. The world already moves according to its influence. In the realm, the global elite do not rule through office or decree. They rule through ownership. They sit above borders, above flags, above ideology, bound not by loyalty to nations but by shared interests that transcend them. Their power is quiet, distributed, and insulated, embedded in finance, resource control, trade routes, technology, and cultural production. They do not need to govern populations directly. They govern the conditions under which governments themselves must operate. States negotiate. Markets obey. The global elite understand the law of free will as well as anyone. They do not command belief. They manufacture desire through wealth concentration, debt systems, and controlled scarcity. They influence what people aspire to, what they fear losing, and what compromises they are willing to accept. Opportunity is dangled just out of reach, ensuring perpetual striving without a rival. Freedom exists, but only for those who can afford it. For everyone else, choice is shaped by necessity. Their greatest weapon is abstraction. Decisions that affect millions are reduced to numbers, forecasts, and risk models. Harm becomes normality. Suffering becomes cost. Distance protects conscience. When collapse economic, environmental, social is framed as inevitability rather than design, responsibility disperses through layers of intermediaries, shell structures, and legal veils until accountability dissolves completely. No single figure can be blamed, because no single figure ever appears. Where the global elite design outcomes, the commando ensures momentum. The commando is not an army in uniform, nor a faction acknowledged by law. It is a decentralized enforcement mechanism. Operatives, contractors, specialists, and deniable assets who exist in the margins between legality and secrecy. They are deployed not to conquer territory, but to correct deviation. Their presence is rarely confirmed and never advertised. When systems stall, when figures resist, when information leaks or movements grow to coherent, the commando intervenes. They do not operate through ideology. They operate through function, disruption, intimidation, extraction, neutralization. Sometimes the result is scandal, sometimes disappearance, sometimes a sudden reversal of fortune that appears coincidental from the outside. Violence is used sparingly, not out of morality, but out of efficiency. The goal is not martyrs, but silence, not rebellion, but uncertainty. The commando respects free will in the same way fire respects air. It does not remove it, but it makes certain choices unbearable. Targets are never forced outright. They are surrounded by consequences until compliance feels like the only rational decision. Careers end. Families fracture. Allies withdraw. The message is never spoken, yet always understood. You are free to choose, but you are not free from outcome. Together, the global elite and the commando form a closed loop. Vision without enforcement is fragile. Enforcement without direction is chaotic. One shapes the world through influence and capital. The other ensures that when influence fails, correction follows. Neither needs public legitimacy. Neither seeks recognition. Their success depends on remaining myth-like, half denied, half believed, never fully grasped. At the surface, the world appears governed by institutions, laws, and leaders. Beneath it, direction is set by those who never appear and maintained by those who are never acknowledged. People argue about who is in charge, unaware that power no longer requires visibility. The global elite decide what future is profitable. The commando ensures that future arrives. Around and around we go. This we must stop. Check out Part 3 for one of the darkest parts that breaks my heart. The dive in to child trafficking and missing persons.